Okay, today we're going to learn about graphing these quadratic equations. Okay, by the end of this lesson, we'll be able to learn how to graph this. Now, don't let all these values A, H, and K scare you. We'll describe them in detail later. Okay, so I just want to recap what we did last time, what you should already know. Okay, last time we were able to graph equations like this, y equals x squared. That was our basic parabola. Okay, then we introduced something like y equals x squared plus 5. Or y equals x squared minus 5. Basically, these were our parabolas shifted down 5. Basically translated down 5 units. Okay, it would be the exact same parabola, x squared, except this controls whether or not it's shifted. Now, in terms of this equation, that plus and minus 5 corresponds to that k value right there. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. Next thing we learned is we learned the following. Y equals 5x squared. Y equals 7x squared. Or y equals half x squared. And what all these values did was change the step pattern. So the basic step pattern for y equals x squared was equal to step pattern one, 3, 5, 7, always increasing by 2. When we had y equals 5x squared, our step pattern, all the steps increased by 5. So instead of 1, we would have 1 times 5. Our first step would be 5 units, then 15, then 5 times 5, which is 25, then 7 times 5, which is 35, then 9 times 5, which is, what's 9 times 5? 45. Same thing with y equals 7x squared. Well, then it'd just be increased by 7. So 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 7 is 21. 5 times 7 is 35, etc., etc. Basically, this number right here, this coefficient to our x squared, changes our step pattern. Let's do the next one. Y equals half x squared. And what do we end up getting? We end up getting, instead of our step pattern, it's going to be 1. Instead of it being 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., etc., we're going to end up getting, our step pattern is going to go by half. So 1 over 2, 3 over 2, 5 over 2, 7 over 2, etc., etc. And that corresponds to this guy here, right? This guy, this coefficient, corresponds to whether or not we stretch. Remember, we called it a stretch or a compression. Okay, so let's get started in part 2.